I'm ChosenArchitect, and this is All the Mods 10. So how does 80 million FE per tick sound to you? Sounds like a lot, right? Well, today we're going to be able to set up a fusion reactor that can produce up to 80 million FE per tick off of a actively cooled fusion reactor. Now, I know I'm spatting out some really large words right there, and it may sound kind of confusing because in our own reality, well, setting up fusion is seemingly near impossible. Of course, there is progress being made IRL, but here in the game, we should be able to use essentially water and energy to create more energy. Now, yes, you heard me right. I said just water, and that's really what it's going to use as fuel. However, it does require multiple steps in making this water setup work. So now how do we actually set this thing up? So we are going to need some of our pellets that we've been producing. And this right here is polonium, and then we also have plutonium, all being produced from our fission reactor that is burning at a nice solid 150 millibucket burn rate. Or actually, I think now I've upped it to like 160, right? And it seems easily able to handle that. And we're actually maxing out our steam like right at the cap there. Now, of course, that setup is required to make the fusion reactor frame, as we need polonium pellets to be able to actually craft the frame of the fusion reactor. Now, making this thing is honestly not too difficult. We really just need 36 of these fusion reactor frames, 26 reactor glass. It looks like we're going to need 2 reactor ports, one for sending in the pre-mixed fuel and also a way to get power out. And then we also need the fusion reactor controller, which needs to go onto the top of the actual machine. And then we need a laser basic input port. So this is going to be the laser focus matrix, which is what can ignite this. Now, there are other ways that you can ignite this, but I think the laser is the coolest. You can definitely use like a resistive heater, believe it or not, to actually heat this up, and then we can go ahead and once we get it to significant heat, you can then ignite it by just simply placing the hologram in here that's filled. But I'm going to do it the laser method. I think the laser method is honestly just cool to see the lasers. I love how there's just a huge community that has found so many different ways to do things. I really love that. But down in the comments below, definitely let me know if you have other ways of potentially starting this thing. Now, I'm going to be building this thing about 3 blocks off the ground. So 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm going to go ahead and just place reactor glass. Now, it may seem weird using reactor glass, but you can actually use reactor glass anywhere that you would typically be able to place in a port, for example. So let's go ahead and get our basic shape out. Now, the bottom of this structure kind of looks like this. And then on the outside, we will essentially have our reactor frames. This is the bottom of the reactor, and all of the other sides are also going to look like this. And so that means once we go to the next level, I'm just going to go ahead and place my reactor glass. And then each of these corners are going to kind of have a structure that looks like this, just essentially filling in those corners. Now, this next section is going to be the middle, and I do want the back right here to be the laser input port. We are going to have some lasers that are going to be coming from the roof, and I kind of want those there. And then honestly, on this port down here, I think I'm going to want the fuel going in to the bottom back here next to the laser input port. And that also means that I am going to want a reactor port down here. This is where I want to gather my power. So now this just means I need to fill in the rest with glass along this line. This is going to save on the need for the reactor frames, but also let you see into this thing, as this is a really cool kind of multi-block structure that you really want to be able to see inside. All right, and so we're almost done. We just need to place this in all of the top corners here, and then we need to fill in the rest of the gaps, much like this. And then on the top, well, for the most part, this can be glass as well. We just need to fill in these corners like so, and we're almost done. I say almost because I've already technically messed up. That's because this actually needs to go up one. We need to place just like this, up one more like that. Then we can place the glass in. Perfect. And then fill the corners in. Perfect. And there's only one more thing left to do, and that is directly in the middle here. We need to put our fusion controller, and this will form the multi-block that is the fusion reactor. Now, I honestly wish this was the hardest part, but no, that actually goes to making the DT fuel itself. Now, I do want to throw in some helpful things it talks about here. If you want to go unmixed. So you're going to go ahead and send it the tritium and deuterium, basically like this. You're going to set this to an injection rate of 98, and you're only going to need 49 millibuckets. But keep in mind, this will produce about 15 million or so RF per tick. Now, if you mix it and you give this thing 500 millibuckets of each fuel, basically a bucket of the mixed component, which is DT fuel, then you will be able to get close to 80 million without this being cooled by water, just be air cooled, which in my opinion is quite a lot. Now, the rates at which all of these machines are going to be getting into produce materials is honestly dependent on the pack you're playing. And for example, in this pack, being in all the mods pack, it has been modified. So for example, I don't need like 50 water pumps because they've increased the rate from 10 millibuckets to 50 millibuckets per like pump, I guess you could call it. It's really hard to kind of define how all of these variables work. But what I did is I went into a test world, and if you've seen it over on X, or if you've seen it maybe posted here on the community page on YouTube, I went ahead and showed like my process of testing everything out. And I have found sort of the optimal amount of machines that we're going to need in order to get this setup going. So now I am going to need, it does look like about 4 evaporation towers. So I'm going to go ahead and lock these in place. I'm using the cut paste tool to be able to put this in, or sorry, copy paste gadget. And it's going to make this a whole lot easier by using this tool. I recommend locking this in place so that way we can always get more if we run out of blocks. It does look like that filled it all the way in. Perfect. And just to move right on over here, and just using the copy paste tool, man, it just makes things so much easier, like building these giant structures like this, right? So I'm able to just nudge that over, and then simply right click. And now we have an entire room basically filled with the thermal evaporation chambers. Now for this particular setup, it's just going to be water going in. And you're going to notice a pretty common theme here with it just being simply water. So we'll pipe over here, and this whole setup is to simply produce lithium, which we've already produced, but this is going to be producing even more lithium, and quite a bit of lithium actually. And from what I've seen in my testing, it does appear like these dual setups right here to produce lithium kind of max out at 320 millibuckets per tick. And we actually need more than that. We need to get over 500, preferably in the 512 range, which we will be able to do with 2 of these set up. Now from our pre-existing setup over here, I do want to grab a little bit of lithium if I can. I don't know if I can just up and grab a bucket of it. It doesn't appear so. I'll definitely have to place a tank down, then I can use a bucket. So now I have a bucket of liquid lithium. Yum, definitely don't drink this. And then I don't know why my first thought was to drink it, but it definitely was. Anyways, I'm gonna place it in here. So now I can just simply send it through my AE system. It's going to make it a lot easier whenever we go to set up the automation for things down the road. I do, however, need to lock and link, and I've already got the upgrades in there, including a void upgrade. So this has now been added, and it's just going to make the process of getting everything together a bit easier. So now for the fun part, resisting. Wait, hold on a minute. No. Well, I mean, we do need to resist a little bit. So back here, I'm going to place in some power, and we do want to get this heated up. Now I recommend just setting this to like 50K if you can afford it for right now. That's going to allow this to get to max speed very quickly. So 50K each, that's going to really ramp up, but I would set these to about 10,000 after the initial ramp up period. So here we go. So 50K. I know that seems like a lot, but we are, remember, producing like over 1 million right now just from the other generator. So we have a lot of power to technically play with. But yes, setting these back down to 10K after the initial warm-up period, once they get to like their max heat, like they already are, probably is a good idea. Now in reality, it would be crazy because these machines would essentially blow up if like you were dumping a cool liquid into something incredibly hot inside of an enclosed space. Yeah, but in this case, they're not going to blow up because this is a video game, right? But anyways, I want to be able to take the lithium that this should be able to produce once we get our cables connected. So I will simply set that. That is going to pull the brine from here. It is going to send the brine into here to be converted into lithium very quickly, by the way. And then I want the lithium to then be sent into my applied energistic system. And then this is going to be all sorted out. So if I search up lithium, we should see the lithium now going up, and we're producing quite a bit of it. Okay, so here's where I kind of struggled with this mod, because it doesn't seem like this rate that you see right here is quite accurate. I have noticed that this definitely changes quite a bit, and it kind of jumps all over the place, but you can see it's like 49.5, which would be right underneath. And whenever I was testing, this number was also a little bit different as well. I don't know. I think this value is supposed to have a decimal point moved over, where it's 499, not 4,000, because I'm almost positive it's not producing 4,000, basically 4 buckets a tick. Like, there's no way. If that was the case, this number would be accelerating way, way quicker than that. So I would move that decimal point over 1 position, and then that's how much. We're about 500 millibuckets. So in this case, between the two, we're producing close to a bucket per tick. And honestly, that is more than enough for this setup. Now, to process the lithium down further, we need to convert it from a liquid to a gaseous state. So to be able to do that, we can use rotary condensators, and rotary condensators output automatically to the left-hand side. So if I place them like this, I can send a cable just like so into the back of the machine, and I can just simply use an exporter back here to send our lithium to it. So first, let's place these down, and then I'll just drag my liquid lithium into here, and that should automatically start sending lithium, I do believe, into the system. We do have to switch this over from condensator mode to decondensating mode, and then you can see that's going to kick off. Now I'm going to have to upgrade these machines, but I'll do that last. Now, something I want to note, you don't have to be worried about this particular reactor exploding, because this reactor does not do that, which is kind of nice, right? So the only one you have to worry about kind of blowing up is your fission reactor. This reactor is kind of safe, so you can kind of test and play around with things as much as you want without the fear of irradiating your entire base. That's one of the nice parts about this particular setup for power. Now, this needs to be fed into these solar neutron activators, and I'm going to place them in a special configuration. And actually, I'm going to move these cables right here. Now, I'm placing this facing this way because the output is automatically on the face, but you could really send this any way you want. And I just actually want to move these rotary condensators. And what I'm going to do is place them in the opposite direction. So the left side is the export here. And I'm just going to send this actually into the top of the machine. That way I can run some cables down the back here and automatically into the back side. And we're going to use tubes for this. So I'm going to place these tubes in the back, and since this is converting into a gas, this will automatically send this out, and the lithium will automatically go into the top. Now, these do need access to the skybox, so we've got to make sure to clear out an area all the way up to the sky. So now, once these machines are upgraded, this is going to be producing well enough of the tritium for us. Already it is producing tritium with the small amount that this is producing. But I think now that we have tritium, we need to go ahead and start making the other thing that is made from water, which is deuterium. So now typically to be able to get the sustainable amount of deuterium that we're going to need, we would need 50 water pumps. Now this is kind of helped in this pack by the rates being changed a little bit for your electric pump. Now the electric pump, to be able to get heavy water, which is what we're going to use to make deuterium, well, you would basically place the pump down, you would put a filter upgrade in here, and this would basically, when max upgraded, it would produce 10 heavy water per tick. Now we're going to need a lot of that, so typically that would be up to 50 of these pumps needed in order to sustain this. But it does look like this has been scaled up to 5 times the amount. So instead of 10, it's now 50 millibuckets. So we can get by with essentially way less. Like, we should be able to get by with about 5, you would think, but it's actually not exactly 5 for my testing. But we can go ahead and test 5 for right now and see how this all works. So I'm going to shift right click these filter cards in here. And then I also want energy and speed cards in here. Energy card. Oh, I think what I was looking for was energy upgrade. There we go. We're going to make this a whole lot better. I guess while I'm doing this, I might as well also upgrade these if I can. Looks like I'm going to need a few more. And we also want max speed upgrades in these things, so that way we get the maximum pump rate, which will end up being 1 bucket per tick. Now, underneath each of these, we should be able to place in water. Not like that, not inside of it. Okay, I might actually have to break these to place the water in. But I do need water underneath each one of these. So now we can see the pump rate of the water. It's filling up with heavy water because of that filter upgrade, and we just need a pipe. We need to send that over to an electrolytic separator. Now this is where we're gonna have to test. 5 should be enough, but I think we're gonna need more. Now that we have this, we need to send it into an electrolytic separator. That is essentially how we convert heavy water into deuterium. This one's kind of simple, and I think one electrolytic separator should be able to keep up with all of this. Now by default, it auto outputs to the left-hand side, and we can make sure we are dumping excess oxygen, which will be also produced in this process. So a little bit of upgrades in this machine as well, and some simple pipes that are going to go right over the top of this. Yeah, we'll make deuterium very fast. Now, this should all lead into a chemical infuser. So on both sides, we have an input. We should have an input on here, and then the front is technically where the other input is going to be at. And we should take tubes, and that's what's going to be used for this process as well. So tubes are gonna just, everything's gas at this point, leading into this. So a tube going into here, and then we'll carry a tube out the front here. This all gets combined and is producing DT fuel. Now I think this will automatically send out into a tank, and yeah, I just want to take some of this and send in. Notice we are producing 512, but I don't know if that is going to be sustainable. I'm still a little iffy on there only being 6 water pumps because in my test, and I don't know if this was in a version before changing this config, but yeah, in my prior test, I needed about 12 of these. So we'll see. I might have to come back to this, but we are going to need this anyways, because this is how we're going to fill our holorum. Now, this is a chemical, so we can now use a chemical card for this whole setup. And that means I can use AE to store my DT fuel. So I just need to take this. Let's go ahead and add that to our list and drag that in. And voila, we now have DT storage, and we can use this for AE to send it directly into our setup. So let's go ahead and do that. I'm gonna slap an interface onto the front here. That way it can send as fast as it can produce right into this interface. And DT should now be inside of our system. And there we go, beautiful. So now that we have some DT fuel, and I still don't know if this is gonna be enough, let's go ahead and now get the laser system set up to be able to get this reactor online. Now, lasers can be kind of finicky, but what I essentially want to do is use laser amplifiers. Now, the red is the part that is going to shoot into here. And I can use a lever to be able to turn this thing on and off. So underneath, I'm going to use a block. So anything will work. Let's see, we can use like, I guess one of these blocks, right? This will work. I'm going to break. No, I'm actually going to place it right here. Yeah, that'll be fine. Underneath, I'm going to use a lever. And this will be kind of like my toggle switch for turning on this laser amplifier. So we need this to be into inverted mode, I do believe, for the redstone detection. And I just want to kind of chain a bunch of lasers together to get to this point. Now, I don't want to cover this, so I do want to be a few blocks above this. So something like that. And we need a way to get our lasers placed in, right? So if I go right here, we're going to have a laser that essentially shoots in this direction. So 1, 2, 3, there we go. And notice this is not pointing in the right direction. Yeah, I've got to make sure that it points in the right direction, as I'm going to be kind of directing it all this way. So that laser shoots here, and then I want this one to be pointed down. Of course, I'm going to have to place a block to get that to point down. I might be able to rotate these with a wrench, but yeah, I just essentially want things chained together like this. And same goes for up here. I'm going to have one laser here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think up top there is going to be a laser. And I just got to keep in mind, like right here would be a good spot for a laser. We can have that pointed down. Right here would be a good spot for a laser. I want that pointed down. And right here would be great for a laser. I want it pointed down. Now this is kind of for show, and it also kind of is going to show you how these lasers function in general. They can break blocks, so you gotta be careful with these lasers too, by the way. So I guess we can go ahead and get our lasers placed in. So I placed a block spacer here because I want to use gates to power them from the back. And as soon as I give them power, they are going to start running. I've got to be careful too to not step in the way of them, as that could definitely kill me as well, I believe. But here we go. As soon as I start sending in the lasers, we're going to start to notice that this is on. Okay, so maybe inverted is not the right mode. Pulse should be the right mode. That's going to be fine. Notice though, the lasers are going in. The more lasers I add, the bigger the laser beam is going to get. I just find that to be so cool. But what we're doing here is we're charging this up until it hits 400 MFE. Once it hits 400 MFE, then we are good to fire this laser cannon. And I think this is so much cooler than any other method of getting this reactor up and online. I mean, look at this thing. That is so sick. So now while that's charging, I think it's time to get our hologram. If I can spell this right. Mekanism. I do have an auto crafting recipe for it because it has to be made inside of an infuser with a little bit of charcoal. It's made super, super easy. There we go. And yes, we have to fill it up. So we can do that by placing it inside of here. And that is now filled. Perfect. Okay. So now that we have this, I guess it's going to be time for us to find out if all of our setups are optimally running. And so here we are at 400 MFE. That is more than enough. To jumpstart this, we need to put the hologram in here, and then we just need to do like Kronk did and pull the lever. And that started it, but I forgot a very important thing. This isn't going to run without any fuel in it, is it? I got so carried away that I forgot, oh yeah, this needs fuel in the back. So acceleration cards we need to make sure we have in here as well, and then we just need to drag DT fuel, and that is going to fill this with DT fuel. And then to receive our energy, I think it might be a good idea to have a flux accessor attached here, and that is going to make sure we can capture and void the power out of this port. Okay, so now we have everything. I do have to make another hologram and fill that up, and I think we're now, yeah, over that capacity for power too. And here we go. So I'll fill this bad boy up again. There it is, all the way filled. Oh boy, and this is going to be the true moment of truth. We'll go ahead and spark this. And did it work? Okay, it does say DT fuel. We have heat energy right here. It is depleting, energy is generating. Uh-oh, but it does say that we may not have the exact rate. This does need to be set to 98, by the way. And once it is set to 98, we should be generating it, but it doesn't seem like that was enough spark to get this thing up and running. Now, I think I know the reason why this didn't work, and that's because AE has a little bit of a ramp up period for sending fluids out of things like an exporter. So instead of using this, we could actually just use a interface. I do have to make the interface a little bit smaller, so let's go ahead and do like this. And in the interface, I will specify DT fuel. And that's going to keep DT fuel in stock. And what I can do is instead use a tube here, which will have an internal buffer, and this will be able to pull instantaneously out of here. And that will change basically how the DT fuel is handled. So we shouldn't encounter this issue, and this should stay up and running, because if this at any moment loses any rate of DT fuel, it will no longer stay up and running. So we have to make sure to maintain that constant fuel supply. So I think this is a much better solution here. Okay, so back to doing this one more time and seeing that the third time's got to be the charm, right? It's got to be. So let's go ahead and get that ready to go. It's all trial and error sometimes. Good thing this reactor doesn't blow up, right? So we'll put the hologram in there again. This time we will tick this on, and there we go. Okay, so now we're going to have to keep an eye on this, right? Because we need to make sure that we are producing enough DT fuel. Uh-oh. So is this just not outputting fast enough? Or are we just not producing fast enough? So that's something we're gonna have to keep an eye on, right? And we may have to jumpstart this again. That's why I was saying that we may not be producing enough of our DT fuel for this. You know, it probably would help if I actually had my my rotary condensators on. Oh boy, oh no. Okay, so has this shut off yet? It has not. This is still dropping down, but it is starting to climb back up, thankfully. Okay, so maybe we are producing enough. I can now see this going back up online, and that was because I had this turned off, unfortunately. I mean, it does look like this is producing 512, but this did have a little bit of time to build up. It has not started dropping down, though, which has me a little bit surprised. I don't see anything here dropping. Okay, I think I can call this sustainable. I think the 6 of these are definitely maintaining enough deuterium, And it also appears like this pipe is increasing, so we have enough tritium coming in, and this is maintaining a constant 512 supply, which is exactly what we need. On here we need at least 500, so this is creating a constant 12 every tick extra, and we should be able to see that going up in this pipe, in which we do. Oh, that is so nice. So now for the important part, taking a look at our reading of how much we're actually producing. In our status tab, you can see right here, passive generation, 80 million FE a tick. And you can see we're producing about 79.3 million FE per tick on this setup right here. And it does look like it is slowly climbing all the way up to the 80. And of course, all of that power is definitely getting voided right now on our one card that we have, but we can always make another flux card. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh man, I made a 256K. It does go even higher than that, by the way, all the way up to 256 mega. That's insanely large. But yeah, we have this one in this cell. I mean, I guess I could just drop it inside of here. Why not? And all excess power, I do believe, should go into here. Oh, that's right. This has a destruction card in it. What if I was to change some things, actually? I think this is because this maybe is holding a higher priority, so it's not trying to send to this yet. Oh, come on. I'll pull this out quickly. Oh, quickly. All right. Then this is filling up. And then, because of this being basically first in the list, this one will fill up, and then this one will do the voiding. Should probably put this one last then. Honestly, I kind of wonder if the flux accessor is actually drawing power at the moment. Like, it doesn't look like it is doing that, even though it definitely should, unless I need to use like an external cable to pull out of here, right? Yeah, that's definitely not pulling in 80 million. And you know why? Because I'm a complete and total derp. I totally forgot to put this into output mode. So now it should auto output, and we should see the values, yeah, going up as intended. Now it looks like I've already filled up that card. Let's go ahead and put another 256 in here. Then we can start to see, yes, that is 100% transferring what looks like 80 million. And it does look pretty nice. So now you may be wondering, is this whole setup actually sustainable? Because like, what happens if it's nighttime? Well, that's where last episode's setup really comes into play, because we also have eternal day in this world now, thanks to Ars Nouveau. So yet again, another reason to set up your Ars. Like, this is so good. So I have right here just some tablets of sunrise. And of course, if these run out, I'm going to be kind of in trouble. It'll shut down, but I should be able to keep these in stock, no problem. Even auto crafting, craft them technically. But yeah, a little bit of redstone, essentially a daylight detector detecting nighttime, sending a redstone signal into a pulse gate. The pulse gate then will pulse the routers, which are in pulse mode. And we have an activator just simply clicking on that pulse. So this one is going to click the tablet of sunrise on here. This one's just going to click to activate it with a little bit of delay. And that's basically eternal day. So I don't think we're going to ever have to worry about running out. And even if we did, I think we'll have enough backup in that buffer, especially in our storage and everything, given a little bit of time. And we're going to need all of this power, because if I want to make antimatter and make an SPS, well, we're going to need some sort of like large quantities of power. Like, not a tremendous amount, but definitely in the millions to be able to make antimatter even viable. So this is going to be a tremendous help in that regard. And so guys, I hope that you enjoy videos like these. And of course, if this is something that you enjoy, be sure to click that subscribe button and give this video, guys, a huge thumbs up. These videos do take a lot of time to do some research on, so I do appreciate it. And if you have setups like this, I would love to, of course, see them over on the Discord. And yes, you can always ping me over on the Discord and show me your setup, for example, in the image gallery. I would love to see what you guys have going on, and it always gives me inspiration as well. So, speaking of the Discord, I think with that being said, it's now time to thank the amazing supporter of today's episode. And that amazing thanks is going to go out to Brandon. Thank you, by the way, for your amazing support and choosing to support me over on the Discord by becoming a Discord premium member and, of course, supporting me in one of the best ways possible. Guys, I look forward to seeing you in all of the shenanigans that we're going to be doing in the next few episodes, so I look forward to seeing you there. And with that, guys, as always, thanks for watching.